Recording in progress.
Hi, Pam is here. I can't hear anything, so I'm not sure if I'm with anybody else.
Recording stopped. Recording in progress.
Erica, can you hear me?
Justin, 1, 2, 3.
Pam, could you hear that?
Yes, now I can hear you. That's the first thing I could hear.
Excellent.
Hold on. It's gonna take me a minute to.
Mic on that one.
I think. Let's see.
Yeah, see if you can mute that guy, see what happens. Pam, can you still hear us?
Yes, I can.
Pam, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Let's see if I shut that sound off, it comes out on my computer.
So just mute this one and then,
If I mute this one, for some reason, it's not working on this one.
oh,
Yep.
See what you're saying now.
Hmm.
We'll just make this one a little soft, then, maybe, and not mute it completely. Well,
Yeah.
just a thought.
Can you hear us, Pam?
I can hear you.
Can you hear us
I
now?
can hear. I can hear you. I could hear you the whole time.
I can really hear her. 1 second. I think he's. Yikes.
I haven't heard anything for a while, so I'm just doing a sound check.
Right. Like for what? What is that?
I understand, you can slow and so is like, Chris, hey, so, what the heck was that?
Erica, do I
I can
need
hear
to
you,
change
Pam.
links or?
She's getting you. 1 second.
Okay. I'm unmuting, but I haven't heard anything for a while, so I'm not sure if you guys can hear me. You guys hear me?
Wait.
Can you test it again?
Yep. She's still.
Mom, can you hear us? Can you ask if she can hear us now?
Yeah.
Let me do this. Wait, let me do mine.
1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3.
Okay, see if Pam can hear us now. That actually made a difference. Worst comes to worst, I think we're just gonna call her, and as long as I can record it on mine, I think we should be fine. Okay, I'll call you back if anything else. Thanks. Bye.
Can you hear us? Hi. Just mute or Pam, say hello.
Hi, Pam.
Yeah, we can. Give us a sentence. How's the weather?
Hi.
Oh my gosh, you're sick. I'm so sorry. Oh, goodness gracious.
Where are you? Where are you? Home or?
Probably.
Oh, all right.
Oh.
Oh, all right.
I'm so sorry. All right.
I'm sorry.
Well, it's on.
Sure why it's repeating.
It's on delay. Okay.
I'm the land.
What's the going on with
We're just gonna run. Pam's on
Pam's
the.
here.
Go ahead and try something different.
No big things. I mean, we're not great. RTD might not be able to hear us, but if you have Pam, we at least can record it.
We have Pam, but we can record something.
so just so I know, what are we left with as far as how the meeting gets, documented and played back or anything?
What we'll be able to play that.
We were in the AV room.
Leave the room and just check RCTV stream and tell me if you can hear it. And I will send you the link. Yes, right now. You let myself in, right?
You can also just look on our phones.
The volume, it's a little higher in here. I can tell.
Hang on, Pam.
We get a little bit of an echo.
So sorry, I'm not feeling well.
Good volume. Move your mic back there. There we go. Yeah, wait 1 hour and a half.
I know. Hope we'd be like done by now.
You should have it.
You, when I leave the room, can you just talk a little bit?
Into the regular.
Mm-hmm.
Can hear the rappers.
So long.
I know.
The volume, these.
Can you hear the
input
munching of candy and through the microphones?
The input volume is too high
Ignore the boys.
on the mic.
You're getting the wrong impression. I think we're just here to eat candy, which is reasonable incentive.
That's what you get paid.
I know.
It's working.
I get 2.5 peppermint patties per month.
It sounded a lot.
Let's keep going then.
Okay, so we're ready to go?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we're gonna call regular session back to order, right? And the meeting is being audio recorded, held remotely on Zoom and live streamed on RCTV, or 2 out of 3 of those.
Yeah.
Live streamed and likely recorded, yes.
Likely recorded.
Find out after, unfortunately, if the sound works.
Okay, so how do you, I think the way to do this would be you run through your self-report on results quick.
Yep.
And then I was talking with Phil about how to do this and maybe going through one by one with seniority first.
Great.
Or we could go section by section.
Major section by section.
You want to do it that way, Ray?
Yeah, because I think otherwise we're just hopping and skipping and jumping, and we can a little more focus if we
Okay.
by major section.
So in other words, Greg would do section A and then we'd all talk about section
No.
A.
No, we all do vision, for which there's A and B.
Right.
You're on the same page.
So, okay, so you'd start with vision and then we'd all talk about vision. And now you've given yourself numerical. And that could be something that we do as well. Or just
Just a thought. I mean,
just speak to it.
Yep.
I think we've never agreed on a numerical.
No, we
Yeah,
didn't.
I don't know what the.
Okay,
and
so just voice
we got
whether,
it to 2 decimal places.
One
Is that logical or, no, 2
significant digits.
significant figures? With
well, I
that
think,
log scale or exponential scale, I'm not quite sure what's
Straight line.
linear.
Okay, well then I would suggest at least that we would say whether the goals have been met or not met, or that would be the minimum threshold of what we would say. And then anything that it's a verbal feedback, and that if we wanted to provide, because one of the things that in reading through, there was some things where I was wanting more data, that if we would have the opportunity to hand in a final written in at the next meeting, how would anybody feel about that? I think, no, yes. Okay, let's say that if
In my vast experience.
Yeah. Yes,
Whatever, I don't know.
okay.
What's the,
Never seen
We
that.
can morph into it.
Okay, let's morph into it. But it's verbal feedback. If there's a need for a data follow-up, then we could have we could hand in something in 2 days if need be.
section A,
Section
all right,
vision.
vision.
Did
So,
we call to order?
yeah,
I did.
We're in order. We're sort of in order.
you saw my context slide, right? First half of the year, we were moving quick. I'll just leave it at that. The structure, vision, team, customers, platform, funding, power supply. I do want to just take a moment, slide 4. Oh, let me just put it up on the screen, sorry. As you guys know, on slide 3, right, I organized this around the goals that we had agreed to back in 2024, right? It's categorized by that. And those goals, as you guys remember, are driven around supporting the mission, right? All right, big picture summary, right? The mission, real simple, reliable, low cost, non-carbon. Just I want to kind of set the stage, right? As you guys know from recent presentations, and again, a slide in this deck, we have a very reliable network right now, right? Part of the focus is reducing vulnerabilities. Trees and wildlife, as we've talked about before, are 2 key causes of outages. Obviously, as we've talked about before, we have no control over storms, but we also are very quick in terms of responding and restoring. Relative to low cost, right? Our average monthly bills were in the mid fleet in terms of MLPs, and we are significantly lower than the IOUs on the residentials, on the commercials. We are also on the lower end of the other MLPs and way below the IOUs. As you guys know, power supply is a key cost driver, and we actively manage that from a risk management perspective. The other element, which we don't talk about as much, but we will going forward, is our cash position. And our cash position is very strong. And if you guys remember, last year, S&P did a revised rating on us, and it's AA-, which is very, very good. We're shooting for AA, but we're AA- right now. And then obviously on the third element of our mission, we are at 55% retirement of certificates in 2024. That's 5 years. It's 6 years ahead of the Commonwealth and 5% higher. And we are, from our current power supply portfolio, and that ability to do that driven by power supply, we are in very good shape through the mid 2030s, which is a great place to be. Again, you've heard me say before, and this is what the employees tend to believe, we are a winning team, right? It was a tumultuous second half of the year, but there's internal calmness and internal confidence that is returning to the organization. Our external reputation is still in good shape, which is very important, very, very important. We'll talk about that when we get to the legislative piece. Hang on 1 second. And we have the RP3 diamond. Go ahead, Bob.
No, I never thought it was in question. You know, there's no point where I thought it was ever in question.
News travels very fast, Bob.
Well,
We were very, so Ed Nepa, news was traveling all over the place.
no, there's
Yeah, but we don't need that kind of talk.
well, it's,
All I'm
there was
making,
no need to bring that up into that slide, but just
oh, no, but our external reputation is part of the reason why we have partners discussion. It's part of the reason why legislature and the regulatory guys think favorably of us. But if they think that we don't know how to manage our internal business, they'll run the other way. Blunt. I hear. All right. So back in October 22, we set the strategic plan, right? We've revised and represented it back in September and October of last year. That vision and that mission in particular were important we use them for positioning our regulatory and legislative presentations. It was part of the reason why the partners came to join us. And it was the basis of our grant submission. That's A. Also an A, right? It allowed us that framework of reliable, low cost, non-carbon. It is a framework to prioritize our resources internally. It is helping the rest of the organization, not just the GM office prioritize, but the rest of the organization do it without me having to make every last prioritization decision. It's part of the, we're looking at both the AMI upgrade, which we'll talk about in more detail at a later time, and also the operating platform updates, which we are in the process of doing. But all of those items underneath that second A are prioritized around, and back to your point, Ray, right? Land is a prerequisite to doing any sort of in-territory generation. The last part B there, which ties back to the first two, we hosted a series again, took the initiative back in the beginning of January of 2025, but we had a series of meetings with our state senators and representatives. Again, in March, April, and December, we also did a small in-house presentation. That's why the tables are gone out of the GM conference room. A combination of partners, et cetera. But this is basically setting us up that the legislature, in particular, will be asking them for support in the form of potentially grant dollars or earmarks specifically for the storage project and also some of the cleanup of Maple Meadows. Those are the key pieces of vision. Feedback.
Should we go seniority wise? Bill?
First, I'll make a general comment here first.
Yep.
I'm short-term here, so some of my comments, we're looking at things that are going to be in the future when I'm not here. Okay, so I mean, others' comments should carry more weight than mine at this point. I think, in all truthfulness, Greg did talk about the second half of the year was a tough year. It was a very trying year. My own personal feeling is that the board created that, quite truthfully. I speak frankly, the board created those problems. You saw we had all the employees here and they expressed their support with the general manager. As far as I'm concerned, that's what the employees felt, and that's, they were here to express that. So, again, in the vision, all these items that are here look fine to me. I always have trouble grading what's a 1, what's a 2, what's a 3, what's a 4, what's a 5. As far as I'm concerned, all these things were met from my standpoint. So again, limited comments at this point.
Okay, thank you, Phil. So
Okay.
I'll bat second. I think the two items you had in the goals were, the strategic plan and engage legislators. So a lot of the, the updating the plan and a lot of the things in the plan are, do rely, as Ray was noting, on first, a lot of focus was on carbon capture fuel cells. There was a lot of time and effort that you spent on that, and you still have partners up there for, in this slide today, your evaluation of that's long since been, it's been shelved, it's been voted down as a feasible option for RMLD at this point. So that hasn't happened, and I don't know what it means to say that Form is a partner, or that ASLM, or that, I don't know what those, when you say they're partners, like what you're referring to.
We're trying to do projects with them, novel projects with them.
So, yeah, so
And on the Bloom and Carbon Quest, while the board decided not to pursue, that doesn't negate the fact that a lot of positive work was done in the first half of the year to get to a point where the board said no thanks.
well, I mean, you didn't have land to do it on, zoning approvals, regulatory approvals. There were many, none of those pieces it wasn't anywhere near being feasible. So, I mean, it's just
I hear
factual.
the feedback.
It's just factual. And then, so the land pieces are exciting. And I think we've talked about the need for understanding milestones and what are the concrete points of getting from talking about these things to we would understand that they're going to happen as far as acquisition, and then the full business case and the failure mode analysis type things that we went through with Bloom, is that we're far from having, and we want everything to work out, but we're far from knowing what those pieces are and when they're gonna happen. So there aren't really metrics to say how those are going at this point, which could change in a week or a month. So, and that's on the engaging legislators. You mentioned meetings, but meetings are meetings, but what are the specific legislative pieces that are, or actions or things that are resulting from those meetings that you would point to? I mean, just having a meeting, I mean, that's great, but what is a meeting?
An example would be with DEP. They gave us a way for us to properly clean up Maple Meadows where no plan had existed before. So we actually have that plan when we can execute it. So that was a successful series of meetings with DEP as an example. With the legislators.
Well, hold on, let's stay on that for a minute. So that's something I hadn't heard about, like but of course
But
we
we
don't
talked
own the
about that,
land.
in
Okay.
spring of last year. So
Okay.
that would be the February, March discussion, probably the
Okay.
March meeting.
But that would be something, but I'm just saying, it's not in your self review of, I got the DEP.
I'm not gonna list every last thing we did, Dave. I mean, again, we go. Keep going.
That's all. It's similar to the other of not, that you mentioned having meetings, but the concrete things that resulted from them, or if you say there's an agreement with DEP on land that obviously we don't own, and maybe someday we could lease it, but again, when is that lease gonna be real? And then what is this DEP? It's.
So there's a
a
land
little-
question. I hear your question on land. And my apologies for not providing more details relative to the results of the legislative and regulatory pieces.
Okay, so it's just on this one, I mean, the other stuff, there's more specifics. This one, my only feedback is that there's not specifics for us to understand where these things stand or what's resulting from them. That's my feedback. So it's not really a rating because I don't have the information to provide. That's all.
Thank you.
I'll go. So again, I'd prefer to provide feedback, right? You get a feedback session, right? This is a feedback session, right? So I'm personally not interested in a rating. I just wanted for everybody to give feedback, right? Your end of year goals and then, or how you're doing. I think, one of the things you do talk about those meetings and we talk about grants, but what was, did we get them? Didn't we get them? Why didn't we get them is probably, we get them great. When we didn't get them, why didn't we, right? Was it the application? Was it the competition? Was it it didn't exist? There was a lot of, things, when we always talked about all the money we were going to get for a lot of projects, right? That's what killed carbon capture fuel cell, right? Well, one of them was it just, there was too many unknowns, right? And there was a lot of concrete. I think we just need to make sure we attack the right projects in the vision, right? We talk about, a lot of big things, but I'd love to put a nuclear reactor right in the middle of Reading. It would be great. But
Next to your house.
it's yeah, right, no. But I think those are the types of things we just have to stay focused on. What is a doable project, right? What is something that's going to be concrete, that's going to be executable in a certain time frame. So that's my feedback on the vision.
I think that's Pam now, right? Pam has a few months on Ray, or
I hope you guys can hear me okay.
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
I just want to take a second and we're jumping into the details behind this. I appreciate that a lot of the things on this page is certainly not just you. It's a large group of folks who are working really hard on many, many different things. And I just want to express appreciation for the team who contributed to all of this work. And recognition that there's quite a variety of different things that we set out as goals. That you're never going to hit them all. And appreciate, the fact that you shared some of the activities and work that went towards them. I'll just briefly, reiterate kind of one of the points Dave made around, results versus activity. Just for efficiencies, I think it's most helpful if we just talk about just the specific results that, were impactful in each of these areas. But again, recognize that there's a lot of work that goes into achieving those results, and sometimes, work happens that doesn't actually get a result since we made a different decision. So that happens. Feedback, I think the vision is very, very clear. The mission is very clear to the organization, and definitely appreciate that provides guidance to the organizations to make decisions on their own. I think, we'll get into team and personnel later. The more the team can self-direct and drive their activities and their results towards that vision and mission, I'd like to continue to see the organization move in that direction so that, you aren't in every detail of what's happening or every decision. So the focus can be on the strategy and the leadership of the organization. So that's all I have to say in terms of the feedback on the vision side.
Thank you, Pam. Very helpful. Thank you. Good, Ray.
Being the junior member of the organization, I think as a topic, vision and strategic vision, I think you do a very good job setting that. Reliable, low cost, no carbon. I think that's every third sentence that comes out of your mouth. You spout that, but it does set the tone for everyone to understand. And in territory generation is kind of another mantra to that also kind of sets where we're going. So in terms of, I don't think anyone's confused that those are the overall things that we're trying to do. Within that, I generally agree that the systems have been reliable. Getting the trees cut certainly is part of that. Performance is generally good. Power supply is a key cost driver, agreed, and is actively risk managed. We had a discussion this year about when we had low demand and high power purchase. And I'm still not clear that we actively manage that. I'm not sure there's a strategy, but that was an issue that came up, and regardless of how we arrived at that, the point is that's going to be a phenomenon that you have when you get independent supply and independent demand. There's going to be backs and forths, and sometimes it's going to be this, and sometimes it's going to be this. But at least I'm not clear that this is an active strategy managing that. If there is, I don't quite understand it. I know on the other end, when there's high demand and low supply, we have systems in place to try to pull that back. Certainly putting more batteries into the system is a way to do that. Sending emails out. So on the high demand side, we have some things in place. It's on the low demand side and high supply side that I'm not clear where we want to be on that. I think, yay, we're at the 55% goal. But that's always going to be a pursuit, and beyond the 2030s, we still need to plan for that. I think the lesson in the carbon capture fuel cell for me is that while I get that was a pursuit for in-territory generation, and the options are few, so that was the more likely of the options. I think what became successful was the partnership with the Board of Commissioners and the CAC to have that subcommittee engage with you and begin to set up a risk assessment methodology where we could understand what things we did not have in place. Ultimately, we made a decision not to go that way because we found too many things not in. We didn't have the land, we didn't have the permits. There were things that came up that made that not viable. So my my lesson or instruction going forward is, as we have these larger projects, let's look to create more communication, create more subcommittees. Bring Pam or whatever skill set. We have a great skill set on the board here. So, you know, and same with the CAC. We've got great people in the CAC. Let's bring,
See it.
create that team. Let's have them help guide those projects to make them successful. Early, so that we can avoid spending a lot of effort and then finding out that we aren't where we need to be. RMLD owned lands. I know we're putting a lot of priority there. I've also said we don't need land, we need area. And I'd like to see more in the solar choice, solar residential options. But again, that's just my feedback that I'd like to see more in that area. But other than that, my feedback on that topic.
Okay.
Team, excuse me.
Slide 17. So we had C, D, E, F, and G. So obviously in the case of recruiting and engaging several key team members, you can see a list here: operations director in January, HR director in March. We hired the assistant director in March of IRD and then promoted her to director in August. We promoted an internal candidate to be the engineering assistant director with a plan to make that individual the director likely in the 2025 timeframe. The IRD team, as you guys know, was kind of decimated is probably not the right word, but it imploded. So we, in the second half of the year, have rebuilt it, almost fully staffed. It's a good, solid team with good leadership. We decided to pause the intern co-op program. So back to the idea of let's not do too many things. So we're not going to expand that right now. We initiated, again, part of that team was the contracts. That was the E element of it. And so that's in process. You'll see in the goals, the updated goals in the package that goes out tomorrow that we can talk about on Wednesday. The goal is to get that done in the first half of the year. Part of that is driven by the union responses. We continue refinement of the work schedule. That's the 4x10s. We made some additional refinements to it back in the summer. The program's working better. And then we pushed the testing of the semi-annual review into 2025. Our focus is to get the regular annual reviews done, and we're already in the process of doing those for the 2024 year in the first 2 months of this year, which is back to a regular schedule. So that's the big picture on team and personnel. Feedback, please.
All right, so first up, again, some general comments. You've seen, we had the meeting with the employees and you saw the support they had for the general manager. We've heard from the IRD head about the condition of that division and what she's done to train it out at this point with the training. What's Peter's last name?
Price.
What?
Price.
What, Peter?
Price.
Price, yeah. Peter Price. The time he appeared in front of this board, I must tell you, it just absolutely was amazing. This is a man who, and Peter, if you're listening, I'm sorry, caused a lot of trouble in the past, the best way to put it. Appearing in front of this board, it was like a new man when he appeared in front of this board. I thought to myself, is this the same guy? So I think, the transformation that Greg did with that particular employee was just amazing. Absolutely amazing. So that's what I have to say. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Phil. So going through, you had leadership team, broaden co-op program, negotiate contracts, implement new work schedule. There has been a lot of turnover. I think you kind of back where we were about a year ago. So
Yeah, first half of the year.
yeah, exactly. Broaden co-op program. So there may be value in that to create, a pipeline, right? We
Yeah.
can, and it's shelved. So you had your reasons for doing it. I don't know why it was a goal and then shelving it, but
The goal was to try and get younger people into the program.
Yep.
And we were able to do that with full-time hires. The idea is we still ran a program this past year. The point is we didn't bring it into the engineering group yet. Again, just trying not to do too many things simultaneously.
Right. So the big one here is the new work schedule and what that did to planned overtime, which was something that has come up repeatedly and we mentioned very clearly over the summer. And again, looking at the numbers, the planned OT, which is not storms, not outages, not trees, in 2022 was 750 from your numbers, 750,000, of which 460,000 was line crew, and that went up to 1.505 million in 2023, of which 663 was line crew, and then this year, it's doubled in 2 years. It's now 1.5 million, of which more than 1 million is line crew. It's like, and then the supervisors has also doubled. The OT is up $500,000 or $600,000, and it's
From 2023.
from 2022 to 2020. So 2022 is when you took over as interim. You became full-time GM in end of January 1, 2023. So 2024, and it goes back to the MOU. It is apparent, and you can dispute this if you want, that the implementation of that schedule, the Friday line contractors and then guys covering those with the OT shifts, has cost RMLD something on the order of hundreds of thousands of dollars of OT. And this is something that I think Bob has mentioned many times, warned you about before you did it. It was clear this was happening throughout the year. We called out in summer that this was happening and wanted it addressed. And you could tell us whether you have addressed it. But the OT surging $500,000 to $600,000, that's a lot of money. And it's ratepayers are covering this, and it's because of your management decisions. Please feel free to disagree with that statement.
Yeah, I think a couple of things that are in the mix is what those numbers aren't normalized for is the headcount of the line crew in particular, and also the annual rate changes that are built into the contract. Also in the existing contract.
That would be a piece of it. Fair enough.
No,
Yeah. And they do go up a little bit every year for that reason, but the doubling in 2 years is totally out of the norm.
I don't think it's doubling, but that's a different
In
topic.
2 years. Yeah.
Okay. We should go back and double check the numbers, but the point being that one of the key results of that is that we have a lot of work that has to be done with our network. And we have 3 mechanisms with which to get that work. We have 4 things we can do. We can defer the work. But if we want to get the work done, we can either hire more full-time people, we can or hire subcontractors, more subcontractors, which we do have. We've actually worked that down. Or we can provide an overtime to additional employees. Our view is that we are fully staffed in the line crew right now, and have been in the year 2024. And currently, in our current structure, the overtime is the least expensive way to get the work done. The benefit of getting the work done is to improve our reliability, which we have done significantly. We've basically improved by a factor of 2 our reliability metrics, right? And the other element is we all know from what happened in Hawaii in 23, Northern California in 2021, and most recently in Southern California, is we do not want to be the source of any sort of major events. So we are really focused on the safety of the network and the reliability of the network. And in both cases, you can think of the additional cost as being a benefit to the customers and insurance.
Yeah, it would be interesting to have you provide data to support what you just said, as
The data is in the slides.
but that the extra $500,000 in overtime produced is why our system is reliable.
It's a piece of it.
Okay.
Right. And I think you and I both agreed that the other element is headcount, and the other element is the existing contract, and the other element is the rate changes.
So
which are all contractually done.
when we brought this up in the summer and how the scheduling that you implemented seemed to be causing it, did you take any action then, or have you taken any action recently on
We've-
contract labor, for example?
Yes, on subcontract labor?
Well, on the Friday, you know, doing these, what is it, power line contractors coming in on Fridays? Bob could speak to this more authoritatively than I could, but
So in the contract that's been in place at least 2 cycles, the line crew, have guaranteed, overtime of 8 hours each week, that there's at least one subcontractor on the premise. And so we have reduced the number of subcontractors, but we haven't brought it to 0. We're in the process of doing that right now.
so now you're taking action to.
No,
mitigate this problem.
We've been doing several things in terms of better managing the overtime hours, going back before August of last year. And those are actually listed in the other slides that we will keep in executive session until after we finish the union contract. But I hear the feedback that, so I dispute the fact that it's just a net negative to our customer base. I would dispute that.
Well, I mean, it's just a high OT cost from a scheduling regime that you implemented. So,
I was the
Yeah.
one that initiated the 410s. That is correct.
so that to me is that's a significant problem, and also that it didn't seem like there was a response to it over the summer. But maybe, as you say now, that you're doing some things now, but this is something you could follow up on later if you wanted to, but that's okay. Also, the last piece you had under team personnel was semi-annual reviews, that you would implement semi-annual reviews. And then you said you didn't implement that.
That's correct.
Okay. So those would have value, you know, to help people grow and get feedback and all that. But then if it's
Well,
a
we-
goal to do it, then why didn't you do it?
Well, I think Phil spoke to a little bit of that issue associated with the tumultuous nature of.
Okay. I'm all set.
Thank you.
Yeah, Bob.
The only thing, one of the things that I think we did have a significant turnover, right? And I'm hoping that's stopped. You know, just, but that tumultuousness, the turnover led to that tumultuousness. And that's something that it's very difficult, right? When people are leaving or an organization. And I think that was one of the sparks, right? You want to talk, you know, if we're gonna, that definitely have something. And that's definitely something that we need to, seems like it's calm down, you know, but I just, that's a huge turnover. I mean, at one point, we talked about, I think upwards of almost 20 out of a 80-person, roughly 80-person organization. That was a big number, right? But that said, it seems we've moved on from that. You know, just one of the things that your role is as you go into the negotiations is, as the GM, you need to be the buck stops with you. You know, it's something that, you know, you have to be the leader, and sometimes that's a difficult position. And that means you have to say no, and you have to offer, you know, differing points of view. I think that's something that your role demands out of you. And I think that's something that's going to be very, very important, coming up. You know, and as, we've gone through, certain things. You know, we did have a co-op program. I'd like to see, at least if you can do some kind of summer internships, if that's to maintain that, you know, to bring in some students as they come in. I think that's beneficial for the students as much as it is for Reading Light. You know, you're there to give them an experience, not so much hire them, change the focus of what that goal is. And to give them, you know, like you said, an experience in the different aspects of the business.
Thanks. That's good.
Thank you.
Pam?
Yep, I'll keep my comments relatively short here. You know, from my perspective, this is the most important category, because, you know, as leaders of the organization, you know, doing this well means you're kind of a force multiplier for everybody does their job well because they're engaged and they have clarity on their objective, and they're supported. And so, you know, the one piece I would say is I think there are certainly a few things that got off track for, you know, don't have to rehash reasons or explanations. You know, I'd love to see us refocus on, you know, when we tell the organization we're going to do something around performance reviews or a co-op program or, you know, contract negotiations, whatever it might be, that we do our best to stick to that within this category in particular. But appreciate all of the effort that goes into leading an organization of 85 plus people, and you know all of the details that that entails.
Thank you, Pam.
Yeah, me. I think we've come through a difficult period, and so negotiation of mutual benefit union contracts, that's ongoing, transition to winter work schedule. Hopefully that'll come out of the contracts too, and we've got new teams, we've got a new IRD manager, and for all that I've been told, she's doing well, and I met her and fine with me, but I haven't seen her work with her staff. I mean, that's not really my job, but and filled other roles. But we didn't, while we got to a good place now, I feel like that was a big issue, and I don't rate this very highly in terms of how we got through that. And I don't want to rehash it all, but I want to see that people are being trained. I want to see that there's effective communication about what their expectation is. I want there to see a pathway for growth, that people feel like there's a pathway for them. I want to understand that those three things are the types of things the general manager and HR is supportive of, and messaging back to the organization that you know what you're doing, this is what I expect of you, and this is your pathway forward. The feedback that I received, interns were lost, people didn't know what they were doing. Even interns that came back ended up getting fired. It was not good. It was a function of leadership. And so I'm hope we're through it. But as far as rating you on this was not good. I hope we don't anything like requesting staff to write letters of support again. That was, I don't know where that came from or where that is. That should, good. Well, that should.
I was with you guys in NEPA.
Well, that was awful. We shouldn't be asking staff to do that. And those that reacted negatively aren't here, which is not a good correlation.
Either category.
No, that was awful. Let's not do that again.
Thank you.
But we're in a good place now.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Well, before we move on, I just on that last point, Greg, I think it's important for you to sometimes take ownership and responsibility for things. And when you're running the organization and there's a memo left all over the office and in the cafeteria with our personal email addresses, recruiting employees to come and say positive things about you, and you're saying, "Oh, I didn't know about it." It sat there for a week or two, and you didn't put a stop to it, and as if, oh, you don't have control over that. I mean, it's just a little bit. Sometimes you can take responsibility for things and think, yeah, maybe that wasn't, you know, but you to sit there and say, oh, as if you have nothing to do with it is just a little bit cute, okay? Or that you don't have any, or that you have no control, excuse me, that you have no ability to like say, hey, that's not cool, people. You know, come on. Well, you're the general manager. It goes
Agreed.
back to what Bob said of, you know, the buck stops with you on what's going on in your office, okay? So I'm just backing up what Ray just said. So let's go on to the next topic, please.
Customers. So again, the organization of these big categories are, you know, the vision of where we're going, the team, how, you know, the tools to get it done, the team to get it done, and then the customers, those are the people that we serve. Ratepayers, new businesses, and towns. So as you guys saw there, expand the weatherization program. We basically streamlined the weatherization program, right? We looked at expanding it as a standalone program and we deferred that. We decided not to pursue that. We've talked about that in a couple of sessions in the middle of the year. We did initiate and negotiate it, and we're about to announce in February another option, to the rebate, which is basically a loan program. We borrowed some of the ideas from Mass Save, again, willing to learn from other people. But again, back to the idea of trying to make weatherization more affordable depending upon your individual situation. That's what we tried to do. We are preparing for the broader TOU rollout. We've talked about this for 2 years. The MDM program is a piece of it, and then the AMI program. So on the AMI program, we went through a very extensive RFP process last year. We selected an AMI vendor. Again, it's a prerequisite to the TOU. Our intention is to get that AMI. We're finishing contract negotiations as we speak. Our goal is to get that signed in the next week and a half, 2 weeks. It's been an extensive discussion of making sure that we properly protect the RMLD. We have a good partner, we believe, who is accommodating our request. And our intention, and we'll continue, as Nick did a presentation back in December. Our goal is to get and you'll see that in the goals, to get the first phase of that done in this year, and then get the full rollout done in 2026. There are different strategies in terms of doing AMI. Our goal is to do it quickly rather than extend it out over a long period of time. Again, we'll take these. I spread them across 2 pages because there's a lot of stuff in here. We started incremental changes to RMLD.com. There was a period in time where we did not have somebody in marketing or marketing communications. But we did revise the communication strategy and plan in terms of how we were going to do better external communications. That's why we created the new marketing manager role. We successfully recruited somebody in that position. As part of the prerequisite of doing the website update and the broader communication is a logo update. So we've made some progress on that. I'll report to that in the next few months. We refined the newsletters. We were doing, again, taking ownership, Phil and Dave and Bob. We typically were trying to do 4 webinars a year. We did not achieve that last year. Those were very helpful in terms of part of our marketing communication program. We did run podcasts through the first 3 quarters of the year, and we did a lot of community engagement. We have not restarted the podcast program, again, trying to prioritize things. In terms of going to slide 9, same category, right? New customers. We constantly are trying to recruit new customers. There's a hydrogen electrolyzer company that's very interested in coming to our space, into our territory. Part of the interest is a combination of the price of our power supply, the reliability of our power supply, and the renewable nature or the green nature of our power supply. There's also continuing discussions with small scale data centers, and that has actually ramped up even more aggressively in the past few weeks. Partially, not completely done, but we are trying to get the outage map testing done last year. There's some software issues that we're resolving, again, as a team. And the customer portal will release literally any day now. But the outage map we were hoping to have in place by the end of last year. It's not yet completely ready to go. Relative to the town leadership, item M, one of the unique things that we're doing, again, there's a new town manager in the town of Wilmington. One of the key topics that we're working on there, again, going back to some specifics, was the co-location of a new fire substation on the Andover Street property. North Reading, we actually have some momentum and interest relative to the land acquisition that we talked about earlier. In Linfield, we've got a new, a small 500 kW mobile battery system going into Station 3. We were successfully in getting approval of that land lease item with the Linfield Water Department. That was Phil and I were able to get that done in May. Again, a lot of work ahead of time. It's a team effort. Reading, we talked about a variety of different solar PV opportunities. We provided green community support. We provided coordination and support with the town of Reading on Ash Street campus development. So those are just some examples of the stuff we're doing with town leadership. We have a very good relationship with all 4 towns right now. And then in terms of new efficiency programs, right, we rolled out the Drive EV and we also rolled out the Connected Homes program. We did that in the last the second half of 2024. Those are the main categories of the customer section, the customer focus section, those people who we are serving. And we're serving not just ratepayers, but the businesses and the towns themselves. Feedback, please.
Okay, so the first thing I got the, this letter from Rebecca Lieberman.
Yeah.
That you're aware of.
Came in today.
That it should be, that I recommend that you take action, that you look into it and take whatever.
Well,
action.
we need to finish taking action. So some of the things that she mentioned were in process. Part of it is the email stuff. That's the key piece.
Right.
So we'll be releasing probably the email request on that. We're hoping to get that done by the end of this month.
Yeah.
It'll be halfway through February, realistically.
Yeah, so a few things. I mean, I hate to see you change the logo, to be honest with you. I like that logo. It was put in place many years ago when I was first on the board, so I like that
was
logo.
when, Phil?
It was
1980?
it was probably 1988 when that changed.
When that came off, it was used to be a stone tablet, right? And then
No,
There's a
old-
theme,
old-
Phil, so
the old logo
try to keep that same theme.
was basically what the town see on this was basically the old logo. And all it said underneath it was Reading Municipal Light Department.
Yeah.
Which is one of the points that, some of the points.
Keep
I'm
going.
concerned about the data centers.
Yeah.
I've heard a lot of reports about data centers and the amount of power they're going to need. And whether or not, there'll be sufficient capacity to handle those data centers. So I think we need to, think about that in terms of the data centers on that. I've also seen, with the present administration
Sorry.
that there will definitely be some sort of slowdown in electrification
Yeah, probably. Well,
at this point.
federally, the question, we're looking at that. That's exactly the right question. We're trying to, the federal and state legislation will drive and regulatory will drive that. We're asking exactly the same question.
Yeah, because there's things like right now that there's an executive order related to offshore wind farms. And,
That's a supply issue, not electrification issue.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a serious issue.
Yeah.
Agreed.
So, but if we have enough supply to get to the electrification, I would imagine too.
Yep.
The only other thing that I've said it before and I'll say it again.
Okay.
Many people think this is Reading's Light Department. This is not Reading's Light Department. And it cannot be treated as if the town of Reading owns this. This belongs to the ratepayers department, who this department belongs to. And you must always be aware of the outside towns. Because there's more people, there's more
Low
load
revenue,
that's outside of the town of Reading than there is inside of the town of Reading.
70% outside.
So the department must always be run from the customer side for the ratepayer at this point. So
Good reminder.
that's just a reminder that, I lived through the town of Wilmington pulling out, taking the 2 votes of pulling out and the 20-year agreement that we came about with. And there was really some consequences, big consequences on that. Had that ever gone through, that everybody would end up paying higher rates, both here in Reading, in Wilmington, North Reading, and the half of Linfield that we have. So, and hopefully that agreement stays around after long I'm gone. I hope.
Hopefully.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Phil. Good reminder on the,
Thanks, Phil.
Yep.
good day. Yeah.
So on my part, so first of all, AMI, it's great that we now have a contract, and you're right, it's foundational for a lot of things. On the recruit large customers, I do not hold you responsible for recruiting large. I applaud you for trying, but I don't think any of us should be trying to rate whether you were recruited. You can't control that. So it's great that you talk about it.
In
And
fact, it's not on the 2025 for that exact reason.
yeah, I mean,
We're going to be
you-
supportive as we
you
possibly
can't
can.
control whether somebody moves their company to the territory.
Good feedback.
And later, like when we talk about relationships with towns, and also, you know, you're good at keeping in touch with the towns, and but at the end of the day, it's not, you can't control whether a town does something or doesn't do something. It'll be subject to municipal decision.
Oh, yeah.
So getting back to customer communication, so you're right about AMI being foundational, but time of use rates do not require a new AMI system. I mean, we have time of use rates now. We have for many years. And we know when peaks are. We know when we want to push load around. And there hasn't been any, I don't think, talk or we haven't heard about plans for revamping or broadening our time of use rates. To say that it's reliant on AMI, I think that's not quite right, because again, we know when the peaks are happening. We know the current time of use rates are probably not optimal in that they do the peak from noon to 7. And really the peaks, I think, as you've said, are more like, I don't know, 3 to 8, 4 to 8. So
Well, currently,
right.
that's going to change.
And it's going to change,
Yeah.
right? And that also the differential between the peak price and the off-peak price isn't really that much. It could be more. So there's things that could be done with time of use, and particularly commercial industrial, where you in fact do have an AMI system effectively for the 40% of your load. So I guess what I'm saying is that there has not been any, so that I've seen, that movement towards time of use changes. So I don't think they need to rely on the new AMI system. So I would love, as a time of use user myself, one of the 400 or 500 that there are, I've always wanted to see more time of use and pushing behavior a little bit that way. But it's not something that's been happening. So I don't know I think we talked earlier today about, whatever the next rate proposal would be. It sounded like it's just going to be another across the board. It would be nice to think that even now there could be flexibility to say, you know what, let's tweak time of use a little bit, even though we don't have AMI, let's do the 4 to 8. Let's make it
with you on that. Good
and
feedback, and
do
that's what we're
something,
trying to put together. Yeah.
because that's that one.
Yep.
Now, RMLD.com, obviously it does not appear that the site has been revamped. And unfortunately we have had, and Phil pointed out the letter, is there has been a lot of outdated information on it. Like the Solar Choice program was still on there until some weeks ago. It's still a Solar Choice free FAQ up there now. And so I don't know, is the no interest, no load? What's the no interest program? The weatherization thing, is that a real program?
No, it's a no interest loan program for heat pump and weatherization projects.
Okay, is that on the website?
And we'll announce it in February. We're just fine. Yeah, we're negotiated it. We're with one of the local banks.
Okay.
Took the lessons from Mass Save.
So I don't think any of these types of customer interaction, customer communication, website revampings have actually happened. And I know we had problems over the summer. The Shred the Peak emails weren't going out because there was a problem. We hadn't paid the invoice, and it was many weeks before that got fixed. So there was the issue of the customers still getting overcharged when they were paying extra for 50% non-carbon, even though we'd already reached 55. And that got brought up by this same resident, Rebecca. And then you came back and had to refund people. So there's things, I think there has not been, there's a lot of work to be done, and the revamping of RMLD.com, did not occur. So hopefully that will change in the coming months. So yeah, that's basically, that's my feedback. Thank
Great.
you.
Yeah, and the TOU, so it won't be just straight across the board. Each one will be adjusted a little bit. And we'll review all that stuff in the February meeting. But that just the encouragement to make adjustments between rate classes, we will do. And you'll see also in the 2025, we'll do a more comprehensive customer segmentation and characterization, and then a more comprehensive rate study,
Mhm.
which we do every 3 to 4 years as well.
Yeah, and I just want to, Phil pointed out the letter that came in just today, that there's nothing about, like the email address we don't have, that this customer's bill still doesn't promote renewable choice, the things like that. And we've been talking about these things for a bunch of months now. These would seem to be simple things to do to improve customer communications without a lot of, doesn't seem like it would take a lot of effort to just do it. So anyway.
Not a lot. I did like the new ideas from Mass Save. I think that's a good incorporate, learn from others, right? I think that's actually, working down, taking certain things that were out of the rebates that just weren't logical anymore. Though sometimes you don't like them, you gotta do them. So you did well, streamlining that. I know there's a lot of people that are interested in weatherization. We are not Mass Save. Can we ever be Mass Save? So I think expectations are important in that as well. Dave touched on time of use. I just see that as that's going to be something that's going to, we have some ability now. It's going to be new, and it's going to be ever changing, over the next couple of years.
Absolutely.
Not having someone in the social media marketing manager role, definitely, our website, our communications have been slow. Again, I'm not going to repeat what Dave said. And talking, we talked about the outage. You talked about the outage map and the customer portal. Again, we're not going to be as we don't have a lot of money, and I understand that. So they're not going to be the bells and whistles on that. So I think, understanding what people, setting expectations, you can spend a lot of money on something that's not going to give you a lot of benefit. And I just want to make sure that focus stays true on a lot of things that we do here. There's certain, we could spend a lot of time and a lot of effort on things that have yes, they would work, be nice to have, but at the same time, picking up the old fashioned phone or cell phone can call in, does the same effectiveness. And okay, maybe the map only exists on our website. I'm sorry, but maybe we're not going to do an app. Maybe we're not going to do something else. It's just, there's a bang for your buck. And I just want to always make sure that we stay focused on that. I do think you're doing a good job with, talking to other entities and staying on track, with the other communities. And I do think that's important, but I also do think that could be the role of others in your staff, right? It doesn't necessarily have to be you, to be able to delegate people here to do those meetings as well, and let others be that person. I think that's also an important fact. And yeah, and again, the energy efficiency programs, those are going to come based on that. It's always an ever changing world. Thank you.
Thank you. Good feedback. Thank you.
Pam?
Yeah, lot of good that I guess my feedback would be just kind of reiterating it, responding quickly to customer feedback. I think when we do identify issues, we keep them too slow to correct them and fix that. Hopefully, the new communications team will be able to get on top of those changes quickly. And then I think just looking ahead, I think a few folks kind of talked about this or hinted at it, but there's clearly a lot changing at the federal level. Customers may have questions about what that means for what is available to them, or there may be a segment of customers who say, what can I do individually to keep the momentum towards non-carbon, et cetera. We want to be able to provide them with information on those options that's really clear and actionable for them, so they can make their own choices around what they want to do. So as much as we can develop a really clear set of options for them, make that available. They can understand and give them access to, folks that have questions that they need to keep that customer engagement. I'll give their feedback that's been provided.
Thank you, Pam. Helpful, thank you. Raymond.
Yeah. I think, some good things here and some things we want to grow on. Streamlined weatherization incentive programs. I'm glad we tweaked the numbers a little bit.
Mhm.
That's always going to have to happen. But I agree where heat pumps, EVs, and the residential solar are still
Mhm.
incentives we need to kind of pull out. Time of use. I agree with Dave's comments that we can tweak it in a crude way, but AMI certainly is going to change the whole dynamic. So, looking forward to that rollout when it happens. The marketing, yeah, I mean, there's just so much. Get the webinars back. We need to promote Stepwise. We need to promote Adobe. We need to get messaging network out with other groups, Reading Climate Advisory Committee, town committees, whatever like-minded organizations in the other towns. Let them echo whatever messaging we're trying to put out there.
Mhm.
And again, I think really want to second what Pam just said is your role isn't to do those things. It's to motivate and encourage and support your marketing manager to do those things. And,
Yep, right.
and I met her. She's a great person and I'm sure she'll, she would just love,
we're gonna have some staff to help
Yeah,
get it done too.
yeah.
Yep.
I mean, it's
Critically
it
important.
only happens to her capacity to do it.
Yep.
And, but I know she's excited about the opportunities. As far as industrial customers, my only caution on that is we still need customers that aren't going to drive up our peak demand periods. I mean,
Well-
whatever people come in, it's nice that they're increasing a base load, but they need to have a plan where when we get to the peaks that they have a plan.
Correct.
So that-
100% with you on that one.
My
Yeah.
only caution on that.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, I think in general, the communication with town leadership is good. I think you have, you've certainly spoken to the town leaders. I've heard back from Matt and Jackie from the town of Reading, and they said, "Oh yeah, talk to Greg about this." We're making great progress in Killam, but I agree with David. Right now, our town manager is not the most buoyant or exuberant person on this topic. So if the town doesn't push him, he's not likely to go very far. So let's get Killam done. Let's get Killam done, and then we can go back and look at Parker. But yeah, certainly there's green support, community support, awesome. And let's keep the solar opportunities up there. So yeah, I think again, looking in the past year, we fell down on some things, but I think we got people in place to move forward. So I'm more optimistic that the next year will go better than the past one.
Thanks, Ray. Platform, Dave?
Platform.
All right. So platform, the focus on platform, right, is we already started talking about some of these elements, but it's basically to allow us to more efficiently support electrification, which is driving load growth. As a couple of you mentioned already, Phil, there's changes at the federal level, which will have some impact But the other thing that we're staying, going back to the legislative and regulatory engagements that we're doing, we're trying to stay very close to them to make sure that we see how they see the world changing. Right now, they still see, they are still on their same current path in terms of driving toward electrification and decarbonization. But we are actively updating our load forecast to say, what do we think a revised schedule might look like? So that goes back to the load growth and knowing where that is. And as you guys know, load growth is a critical assumption. We're never going to get it perfectly, but we want to have it directionally correct and to the degree that we can, the magnitude and the timing of that directional move as well. Because that impacts our revenue, that impacts how much investment we need to make in the infrastructure, the timing of it, et cetera, et cetera. So on these OP and Q here, right? So we talked about the AMI vendor, right? We've established project milestones. As you can see there, right? Phase 1 is a 2025 event. Phase 2 is a 2026 event. You'll see those in the goals as well. One of the things that we did do, and Dave, I know you know this firsthand, but we actually engaged in some third parties to help us properly manage the project. We only do an AMI project once every 15 years. So it was appropriate for us to engage a team that helped us do this properly. There were 2 from the RFP. We went through a very arduous RFP process. There were 2 very strong candidates. We had 4, as we talked about before. Anyway, so we're feeling very good about the AMI project, and equally importantly, the internal team is excited about it. And most importantly, and very encouraging, is that the internal team wants to do it quickly, as opposed to have it. So some AMI programs will last 3 or 4 or 5 years. Our goal is to get it done in 18 months. And there's a couple of, anyways, so that I think is going extremely well. We talked about pursuing numerous land opportunities. We talked about that before. One of the key things, as we talked about earlier, right back in May, we secured the approval to do a lease of the Linfield Water District. That required a lot of preparation, a lot of meetings, and getting the vote support from the Linfield Water District themselves. We talked about Wilmington, North Reading, Benevento, New England Power. We've got a bunch of different angles in terms of land. You guys know intimately well, there's not a lot of land left in our territory. There's, the good parcels are all gone. This scale of land acquisition, including Ash Street, is new to RMLD. We did back in 2022, the end of 2022, early 23, we did the 326 Ballard Vale. But before that, the last time we did a land acquisition was in 1995. And Phil remembers he was instrumental in helping us get Station 3, which was the 166 property. So this is new territory for us. We've made good progress, but we need to accelerate. We did do an RFP for the land. That's coming back in the early part of February. That's probably not the ideal. We tried it, again, to try and uncover additional opportunities. It is served primarily to let people know that we are in land acquisition mode, but I don't expect a lot to come out of that. But anyways, there's a lot of effort in terms of pursuing land. On Q, in terms of the performance metrics, this goes back to a suggestion you guys made and Pam had made specifically. We are not, we have not fully put in a dashboard. What I have done is I've sat down and walked the team through, what are the key metrics in terms of how the business works? What are the nature of the key pieces to make sure that the different departments, IRD and engineering and IT and operations in particular, as well as the HR and the finance guys, but they understand together how the business operates. So as we pull these dashboard metrics into place, we can make it happen. We didn't get it done in 2025. We made some progress, but didn't get it fully done. But it is a critical element, and you'll see it as the goal for 2025. The other element is, again, internal metrics, which I talked a few moments ago, but load forecast models they impact almost every part of our business: cash flow, revenue, investment, hiring, et cetera, et cetera. So that's important. So that's a quick summary on platform feedback. Phil.
I don't know what to say here. All I can say, it looks okay to me. I mean, that's the best I can say here. So I'm going to pass that on.
Yeah, just real quick, because we've gone over some of these already.
Yeah.
You've talked about the need for some kind of understanding of concrete milestones with the land acquisitions and what's realistic. And not losing sight of that, as Bob's, has been saying of, nuts and bolts, day-to-day stuff in, while pursuing the big dog, if you will. And with the data analytics, it would be nice, not tonight, but at some point, what are these items? What business metrics and, how has the load forecast been deepened? How is it different than what ENE gives us? Not tonight, but you're referring to these things, but it's not, I don't know quite what it refers to or how it adds value. And with AMI, when we get, obviously it produces a lot of data, then the trick is to use the data. So that goes back to, we already have a lot of data coming in from industrial customers. So, but we weren't using it. So it's a question of using the data. So there, that's it.
Thank you.
Hopefully we can get clarity on some of these things.
Yep.
That's what I have.
Just real quick, I liked it when Nick came in and discussed the project.
Yeah.
I'd like Nick to come in
Yeah,
or when
we'll-
appropriate and
And let
then,
Peter come in on the substation, those are two big projects for us.
Yep.
Yeah.
and just to give us updates on that, because those are the two big things that are going on,
Yep.
to do that and, keep it quick.
Pam, if you're still with us.
Hi, Pam.
Still here, I don't have anything to add.
Okay.
Yeah, just repeating themes that I've had, AMI, managing load growth versus energy efficiency, supply side versus demand side. We need to keep both of those opportunities in mind when we look at data and opportunities to leverage that data. Yeah, land is key. It'll be generation and storage. Solar drives the solar choice programs. Battery storage, but also land, yes, but area. That's going to be
Yeah.
you're going to hear that more than once, Greg.
No, and that's part of the focus. I mean, that's part of
You
the
know,
reason why I didn't
you
do
wanna-
these. Yeah.
Parking lots, yeah, they're expensive, but so's land. So let's get some stuff on parking lots. And then the internal performance metrics, yeah. Peak power demand versus peak power supply. Those are independent variables now.
Yeah,
And
they are.
we just need to understand how we manage them when the curves don't line up right.
No, that's part of the equation. Great, thank you all. All right. Funding, yep.
I'll be quick here.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, we made quite a bit of progress early in the year, through the second half of, through the end of basically 2Q24, the first half of 2024. But once we paused the carbon capture fuel cell project, we basically paused any of the additional bonding stuff. We will need to look at bonding later on this year and into likely 2026, 2026, depending upon how fast we do our build out. There might be a time where we will need to do some bonding, but it won't be till 2026 at the earliest. So preparation. So the fact that we have our AAA rating is good. We did several grants, back to your earlier comment, Dave. We did learn how to do better grant applications and part of these early process, like the first one. We actually, the ones that were not several of them, basically, we ended up not getting through. We got to the first round, but didn't get to the second round. And so part of it was we could have done a better job with our applications. Part of it is there was nothing awarded in New England area. I mean, there are different reasons for each one of them. Some of the smaller ones, right? Well, they're all S, I'm sorry. But the second one from the bottom, the cybersecurity one, we actually won that one. The last one, the EV charger grant submission, we weren't well positioned for that, but it all got allocated to the city of Boston, all 5.1 million of it. The third one down, which is the joint application with Form Energy. This is one that we did later in the year. So we took the lessons we learned earlier on. We were recommended by the Mass CEC for 3 million out of the 9.2 million. So a big chunk of that grant dollars. It's in DOE hands right now to award. Obviously, there's still work to do on the Form project. So we'll update you guys on the economics of the Form Energy piece. That is a different type of storage system on a whole bunch of different pieces. We spent a lot of time in the spring of 2024 talking about that project. We have kept it moving forward because it is a storage project of a different nature. Our intention right now is to make an equity investment in it, but probably at half the scale that we were originally thinking about. We'll give you more details on that, but that's an example, going back to your comment, Dave, of taking lessons learned and trying to make it a reality.
You're talking about Form Energy?
Yep, Form Energy, the $3 million out of the 9.3. We're actually looking for another 10 million, to be honest. In addition to the 3 million, in addition to the IRA.
So you're looking for, if you have a $3 million grant application to DOE, so he said.
Yeah, so it went through Mass CEC. Out of the $9.2 million that they were allocated, said we recommend that they have to get DOE approval. So they're recommending that 3 out of that 9.2 go to a Form RMLD project. That's it. It's the good news is we've learned how to do a better job in terms of positioning ourselves.
Well, if that's another huge project, sorry, I made a cut in front of you.
You're coming with me?
You
Okay,
good?
Yeah, sorry, go.
okay, so
Go, yep.
the one thing that I see is, the funding going for bonding. If we can get to the MWIC.
Yeah.
That may be a better route than go to the town meeting.
Yeah.
Cause
The benefits of that, yeah.
I've had experience of going in front of town meeting and asking for, bonding. And people get up and say, well, what more are you gonna give the town of Reading? That's why you're better off to get to MWIC if you can do that.
We have the option.
Yeah. As opposed to going to Reading town meeting, because they usually have their hand out and want something when you go to town meeting. That's been the experience of the two bond issues of which I have presented the town meeting on
Okay.
that. So even though it'll increase the above the line amount, the line,
More than that. Yeah, yeah.
it'll be, because you were doing more construction, therefore the above the line amount will increase.
Yep.
They usually want something, because it falls back to many people consider in town here that it's Reading's light department.
Yeah.
And that's, you're never gonna I don't know how you're ever gonna overcome that with people. Having fought that with a few times,
Good feedback on keeping the option.
At least-
Yeah, what's that?
I've at least fought that issue at least 4 different times in my time. Yeah. So anyway, that's all I got.
So all that's good on the slide. So that's good stuff. That's my feedback.
Okay, thanks.
Yep, no, I just, on the third smart grid modernization, the 30 million.
Yeah.
The Peabody,
Oh, yeah.
what's your informed date? What's your next feedback cycle on that application?
On the one in Peabody?
Yeah.
Oh, I right above it, next to it, it was not awarded.
Oh,
We did,
it's not, I
we
didn't
didn't
know
win
that
it.
was a subset that.
we got invited back to the first part of the year, we resubmitted. But none of that money came to New England.
Yeah.
We had actually, in that particular case, because we went back and took the lessons learned, we had a good pitch and we did it with another partner, which made it even more attractive.
Yeah.
But nothing came,
I think,
on that particular project, nothing came
yeah,
to the Northeast.
I read that first, and there was nothing around here.
And that's,
Yeah, grants are always a little bit of a crapshoot. You try to just make smart choices and lessons learned from ones you don't win to ones you do. It's, I would continue to say, keep trying.
Yeah.
It's, and partnering with Peabody, or whatever, partnering with Form. Those are the among the success.
Alstom's another one.
Those are the success factors that kind of help you win those.
Yeah.
So yeah, I encourage you to keep chasing funding. I consider this a good effort.
Great. Pam?
Yeah, nothing really to add.
Okay. All right.
Last but not least,
Personal favorite.
I love power.
Most power. Item 12. So power supply, right? It's important for resiliency. It's important to manage costs, as we've talked about before. And obviously we have a compliance obligation. Our compliance obligation is tied specifically to power supply. So as you guys know, right, we explored in territory generation PV, Ray. RML, and as you recommended, right, RMLD, this is one of the many factors that you've looked at, right? Linfield water is continuing to have legs. Route 125 potentially has legs. Andover Street potentially has legs. We added 4 new PV projects to the 2025 budget. So there's the theme of the 2025 budget is solar PV. You know, as you guys know, I know you guys commented earlier on the carbon capture fuel cell project to tie to base load. We made a lot of progress in a fairly short period of time. But I think it was if I remember correctly, it was the discussion of the potential of the IRA falling through that was the key factor that decided for the subcommittee not to recommend it and the BOC not to pursue it. But a lot of lessons learned, a lot of good analysis went into it, including how we were going to do the bid design build process. Actual projects that got completed, Ray, Kirkwood Printing put a 224 kW solar array as part of our incentive program. We presented to North Reading High School, Parker, Killam's in process, Senior Center. Parker, obviously, the group decision with the town was let's pause that one and focus on Killam. We developed 2 long-term storage partnerships. Alstom Energy is a small project. We're doing a grant application with them right now. And then there's the, 10 megawatt, 100 hour, sorry about that, it's a 10 megawatt, 100 hour Form Energy project. That's a very good partnership with them right now. And then the other element, which is not part of the T through W, but in terms of actively manage the power supply, this was back in the February timeframe. We actually secured we got approval from you, presented, negotiated, but a rather large nuclear one that took us all the way through to 2050. And it progresses as it goes out further, it gets larger. So that was a particularly strong piece. And then we are supposed to report on TFAs, but the TFA program, we haven't signed a TFA project in over 3 years, and the last of the TAs are expiring. That structure made a lot of sense at a time when prices were not so volatile. The TFA structure right now doesn't really work in today's environment of much more volatile prices. So anyways, that's the last piece on power supply. Power supply, again, back to, somebody asking about actively managed. We spent all of these pieces are part of it, including contracts. Feedback, Dave or Phil.
None,
Okay.
none. Mhm.
Well, we've covered it already of just the need for understanding milestones and what are the timetables and milestones and evidence of progress on the various ambitious land and generation projects. You mentioned the Kirkwood. That's what was RMLD? That was an incentive to do rooftop solar.
Incentive to do rooftop solar.
Okay. Yeah. So that's just a customer that wanted to do solar and you have an incentive. So is there any more active role RMLD took in that in terms of its?
We provided advice and sizing, et cetera. But again, we encouraged it. That was part of it. So we were part of the enabling factor that actually made it happen.
Okay.
Dollars was a big piece of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that fits in with what Ray's point is of
More solar
area. And was that,
so we didn't lease it. It's more solar in our territory.
Yeah.
Bob?
Yeah, just kind of touches back in the vision, I know where rates and reliability.
Yeah.
And looking at the projection of what's going to occur potentially in our next few years in the natural gas and oil environment. I'd like you to think about and even propose, right now we're retiring X amount of certificates, but in an open market purchase, if gas prices are going to go down, that's beneficial to RMLD. I know it's not the most green way to think. It's a very economical way to think for the next couple of years. And as things change, I'd like to be open to the idea of being, if rates is one of our number one components that we think of,
the mission. Yep.
right? I just want to make sure that even though unless we still pursue every non-carbon and every single one of these things on the page, but I also want to see us pursuing the cheapest rates that we can acquire and power supply contracts on the open market right now would allow us to do that, a larger purchase of gas, if gas is available. Now, I don't know if that's gonna be an option in the Northeast, right? It's
Yeah.
very difficult already.
Yeah.
But, as things progress and things change, maybe that's something but I just don't want to put it off the table, but I want to make sure that it is part of the power supply contract going forward and that impact. It's,
So-
it's
so-
that- I said it, I didn't say it in a very
We got it.
nice way.
Yeah. Well, remember, part of our intention behind the carbon capture fuel cell project was actually to have a natural
Gas
fuel
supply,
system,
correct.
right?
Correct.
And again, the world has changed significantly in the past 6 months.
Yep.
Again, we looked very carefully at natural gas and oil, but natural gas in particular coming into into the region, right? Because the view is right now, natural gas prices will eventually in 2 or 3, whatever, at some point in time, they will start to decrease nationally. And ultimately somewhere in the 2030 range or beyond. But right now, natural gas in New England is continuing to grow. And the forecast right now, the industry forecast is 2030, 2032, will start to decline. And so what I think so I'm with you that part of our strategy is to have natural gas. Now we have to deal with the carbon piece of it, but with the idea that will eventually become less expensive and not be constrained like it is right now, that should be a bigger piece of our portfolio.
And it could be a lot sooner than you think, the price
Totally.
structure, right? And I just don't want to lose sight of that over
I'm
the
with you.
next,
So
as
yeah.
an energy supply.
So in 2 weeks, I'll talk about this on Wednesday, but one of the people that are very good in terms of looking at natural gas forecasts are the NextEra team. And so they used to come to us. So last February, I went down to a 3-day conference. I'm going to go down again this February. I'll walk you through what the objectives, but I'll bring back specifics. I know natural gas prices and the forecast is going to be one of the topics. So mission heard, mission accepted in terms of thinking about natural gas in the portfolio going forward and still hitting compliance obligations.
One other item, while I look at that little RMLD logo, Phil's face would look perfect in a lighting. Just doodling it in.
We've got other
right
plans
now.
for Phil's face.
And so I just want to make sure that we see those images of that. If
Yeah.
there is going to be a change, Phil gets to play in there too.
Thank you, Bob. Pam?
Yeah, like everybody's saying a lot of great things on all of these, not as much to add, continue to, encourage as we explore all options. But I've always be taking some of the things, lessons we learned from the carbon capture and just thinking through, how do we make these opportunities go well, but also what could go wrong and how do we risk them. Given all of the changing things that are happening, and reliance that we have on other entities to make some of these opportunities work. So, applaud the continued thinking across, kind of all of the above solution to carbon supply.
Thank you, Pam.
Yeah, just not much to add. We're 80% leveraged. We've shown that that's good value. We're looking for in-territory generation on the projects you mentioned. That means we're 20% market rate. So find the best deals. There are going to be opportunities. We're going to go after another big scheme: carbon capture, fuel cell, space, laser powered, sun generated reflector. I'm not sure what we'll go after, but I think tying the Board of Commissioners, the Climate Citizens Advisory Committees, the CAC, in a risk management support plan, I think that gives you it
Great.
plugs a great resource into the team and then helps identify risk and manage that piece. So there'll be something out there that we'll want to go after.
We're not going to give up.
Yeah, I mean, you got it. You've got to sometimes be aggressive and just understand that has risks and permitting but yeah, otherwise we're good.
Dave, I'm going to jump to you guys want to pass on. Those are my ratings. You got it. You aren't going to comment. Say it was verbal. I do want to talk about the last slide 14, right? So areas of improvement for 2025. So that first element, key metrics beyond the basic actual versus budget and dollars, some basic stuff that we've been managing for a while. But what I'm really working on with the management team right now, and I've got a bunch of materials that we're regrouping again tomorrow morning, but to really put together I'll call it a first cut, but a much more reflective of how our business operates dashboard. And so it's going to help all the different departments understand the decisions that they make and how they affect the rest of the organization. Their cost trend lines, et cetera. We've talked about more effective internal and external communications. Past couple of years, we were doing pretty good at that. Last year, it wasn't as good. So I'm going to work diligently with myself, with the whole team to improve the communications. And then the last element there is the goal is by the end of February to have all of my direct reports and encourage them, which is the program that I'm working on with HR to get them all done in the first 2 months. So again, areas for improvement for 2025.
As your metric of
Okay, good.
reliably low cost, no carbon. Along with that, I would see areas for improvement with staff training, communication. Training,
Yeah.
communication, and growth. Bring people on, tell them what they do, what they need to do, and your communication part is reviews. But the people are electrons don't go from here to the house without people
That's why it's
doing
priority
a whole
two.
lot of stuff.
I
So
agree completely.
training, communication, and growth is your next 3 words after you say a reliable, low cost, no carbon.
I think that feeds into, it's been a 3-hour meeting, and 3-hour meetings are brutal. So we should call it a night. But
Thank you.
yeah. And I think, thank you, Greg. And I think you're on a start of like helping us flesh out the goals that we're going to be looking at tonight. And I also, I think we should sleep on it, but consider that, Greg gave numerals that after letting all this bake and sleeping on it, all the comments and what Greg said in his responses, is consider coming back on Wednesday with our own 1 to 5s on these items. We can talk about it on Wednesday.
I don't want to, so we got other bits. So happy to have it.
Yeah.
I don't do another 3 hours on it.
No. It would be just like, when you wake up tomorrow, what's the distillation of all this, and come in on Wednesday and talk about whether we want to offer that.
You just do 1 digit. I don't think 2 or 3
Yeah.
digits.
Sure. Well, he did a 1 to 5 each thing. I'm only saying because
Whatever you want to do.
there's a mismatch.
Okay.
Let's talk about that on Wednesday. Do we need to add it to the agenda? Probably. It's in there already.
It's in there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, good shape.
With that,
Pam, thank you. I just moved it around.
All right. So,
Bye, Pam.
thank you, Pam. Yeah, commissioners adjourn the regular session.
Time to adjourn.
I heard
To
Bob
adjourn.
second it.
Second.
Ms. Messina, aye?
You got a roll call, Wade.
Mhm.
Great Porter, aye.
Mm.
Pam's aye. Okay. Aye.
Both right.
Thank you, Pam.
We're adjourned.
Did well.
Thank you very much, everybody.
So one of the things
Recording
I-
stopped.
My last, I have a chronology of each of our seats from beginning to
Uh-oh.
end, so I
Okay.
figure I may leave that with you before I
Okay.
disappear. Mhm.
A chronology
Yes,
of the seats, same chairs for
no,
30 years.
so I can tell you who served before you.
boy.
From all the way back.
I thought you were going to propose a human sacrifice of the entire board.